The piano is not like a trumpet or a voice. You can do two things at once, and that can be a little tricky when you're starting out. For example, on this Beatles part, or this piano part from Hallelujah, or this Billie Eilish song. Now, the truth is, I never practiced hand coordination exercises per se. I just practiced music. And if you play piano music, you're going to come across hand coordination challenges. But it can really help to understand what's going on when we coordinate our hands. A lot of beginner piano students think that it's about getting one hand going so you don't have to think about it, and then magically adding in the other hand. That's not really how it works. That's a little like thinking your two hands are like two separate trains that you're trying to calibrate to exactly the same speed, but they're on separate tracks. And it's more like you're the train and your hands are wheels of the train. There's this bigger thing going on. Once you start a piece of music, the music has a rhythmic pulse to it. And hand coordination is about relating each of your hands to that rhythmic pulse. I'd say this is actually the biggest difference between professional musicians playing a simple piece of popular music and amateur musicians. It's the relationship to the time, to the rhythm. Professional musicians will never drop a beat or add a bar in the middle of a piece of music because they're used to playing with other people and they're used to playing for audiences. And so they're used to this feeling that once you start a piece of music, that's something that's bigger than you. So it doesn't really matter if your right hand flubs something or you forget what chord to play next. The piece of music is going to keep on going with or without you. So we need to understand how to fit the rhythms of each of our hands into this bigger thing, which is the piece of music that we've started playing. And to do that, you need to be able to hear where the beat is and then divide the beat as small as you need to so that every rhythm that occurs in the piece fits somewhere into that subdivision grid. For example, with the Beatles piece, we're just using quarter notes as the subdivision. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. With Hallelujah, we're in 6/8, and so we have 6 subdivisions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With the Billie Eilish song, we actually need a 16th note subdivision that you can hear most clearly in this little melodic fill. 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3, 4. So with these 3 example pieces, we're going to show the subdivisions for you on screen. But if you're doing this yourself by ear, it can really help to write out what you're hearing. And traditional sheet music notation works well for this. It can be a little hard at first to figure out where all of those subdivisions are when you're using something like a dotted rhythm. So we made a resource for you. It'll have one page with just 16th note subdivisions that you can write out and keep track of between the two hands for a piece you're learning. One page with 8th note subdivisions and one page with 6/8 subdivision. This way you can just print out the page that applies to a piece of music you're learning and save a little on paper. And if you want that resource, it's free. We'll leave a link. Okay, so let's start by trying this Beatles piece. We have 2 different things happening in the hands. This kind of plunky right hand part in the right hand that is always going to be on quarter notes. And then in the left hand, we have kind of a 2 feel in the bass. That's what we call a bass line that is mostly just landing on beats 1 and 3. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So none of the rhythms we're playing are smaller than a quarter note. And a quarter note is going to work fine for a subdivision grid. We just need to think about where are these rhythms in the 2 hands falling into that quarter note grid. This one's pretty easy because the right hand is on every single quarter note. So we just need to see that the left hand is on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll stop there. If you can line up the two hands like this and see where the rhythms are fitting into the subdivision grid, it then becomes pretty easy to walk through the subdivisions one at a time and play each hand where they're supposed to fall into the grid. Sometimes it helps to say aloud where the hands play together and where they're individual. So here, together, right, together, right, together, right, together, 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 right, together, right, together, 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 together. And if you can do that, if you can walk through each subdivision, even kind of just like step by step, it doesn't even have to be in a tempo to start with. You just move from one subdivision to the next when you're ready. Even if you can just do that, you're already over the biggest challenges of solving the coordination for a given rhythmic pattern. You've figured out how the hands fit in with each other, and more importantly, you've figured out how the hands fit into the rhythm of the piece of music. So now you can start to play it at a very slow tempo, and then you can gradually pick up the tempo until you're playing at the tempo of the recording or however fast you want to play. Let's try the same thing with Hallelujah. Here, I'm going to simplify this piano part a little bit so that we just have these arpeggiated C major and A minor chords. The rhythm is going to be the same, and the left hand is moving through this bass line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're in 6/8 for this piece, as I mentioned. And the right hand plays, again, every single subdivision. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The left hand is just going to play on 1, and then the last subdivision on 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And again, we can look at where the hands are together and where they're separate. Together, right, 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 right. Together, together, right, 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 right. Together, together. That's all you need. Then you can gradually speed it up. And just for fun, if you want to add in the arranging techniques that take it into the full keys part, I'm going to double that outer melody note at the octave, and I'm going to play octaves in my left hand. Make sure you're using sustain pedal as well. And now let's look at that Billie Eilish example. So this uses a 16th note subdivision. We would count that 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. The left hand's pretty simple. The left hand's just going to be on 1 and of 2. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 4, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3, 4. The right hand, though, is playing 1 E and 2 E and 3, 4, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and more complex pattern there in the right hand. But again, if you can break it down into subdivisions, you can go as slow as you need to go and say, together, E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and And you notice how painfully slow that is. I think that's often one of the biggest challenges with this. If you're doing something like a 16th note subdivision and you're counting out all of the subdivisions, it can be really glacially slow at first. I would suggest still sticking to a steady tempo for that subdivision, though, if you can, because it's going to actually give you a sense for how this feels once you speed it up. There's a lot of space there after we do that first, right? And you want to build that into your feeling for the piece that you're practicing at this super, super glacially slow tempo. So you see how everything that I'm doing is more about relating each of the rhythms in the hands to the rhythm of the piece overall. And it's less about getting the hands going so that you don't have to think about them individually and then trying to mash them together. Solving hand coordination requires you to practice with the hands together. It's not about hands separate practice that then magically becomes hands together practice. So have fun with this idea. Recognizing rhythmic subdivision by ear can be a little tricky at first. You can use something like rhythmrandomizer.com to practice rhythmic dictation. You can also just practice sight reading traditional sheet music notation from something like a rhythm primer. And that's a really great way to get comfortable with these different subdivisions. But more than anything, you just want to learn different pieces of music that are going to challenge your rhythmic coordination between the hands. And hopefully you'll find that physical resource helpful if you need to be writing out rhythmic subdivisions for yourself for a given piece of music in 16th note subdivision, 8th note subdivision, or 6/8. For more resources or lessons or group classes, you can always go to pianofluency.com. I'm Ted. Thanks for joining me.